So the Lakers, as you would imagine, still your favorites. They're at plus 110 to win it all. Clippers right behind them. And then there's a little bit of a drop-off. Jazz now 6-1. This is all in the West, by the way. Nuggets at 12-1. And some other teams that we've seen make a little noise, like the Suns. They're right there in the top half of the Western Conference. Okay, Joe Fortenbaugh on with me now. So when you factor in this AD injury and unknown timeline, is there maybe a team like the Jazz you might want to fire on?
Two parts to this. Number one, when it comes to AD, if this were last year, I'd be more concerned. First year working with LeBron, but they won a title last year, and they went 16-5 in the playoffs. So if he needs extended rest, fine. Also, I don't see them being a team that needs a 1 seed in order to survive the playoffs. So not major concern, but I am with you in the idea of firing on the Jazz, which you've been talking about for a couple weeks now. Plus 600, you shop around, you can do even better than that. This is a team you want a piece of. Top 4 offensive rating, top 4 defensive rating. But here's the key to all of this. They are the second best team, worst case, in the Western Conference right now. I'm not going to put them behind the Clippers because we saw the Clippers flame out of the playoffs last year, which leads me into the Jazz when everyone will say, well, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to get behind them. Remember last year's playoffs. How much do we want to weight that, right? Because Phil Mickelson had never won a major until the Masters. Juan Manuel Marquez had never beaten Manny Pacquiao until he knocked him out. These things happen. You have to pay attention to them, but you can't just write a team off because you haven't seen it in recent memory. So when it comes to the Utah Jazz, I'll weight that from last year, but at plus 650, plus 600, whatever it may be, I'd want to be involved right now.
Great points. I'm basically going to make the same points because they've only won 2 playoff series in the last decade. And we like to bet on things we have seen happen.
Yes.
But to your point, eventually you do get over the hump for the first time. Like Virginia won a national championship in the NCAA tournament. This Jazz team is constructed perfectly. We all loved it when they got Mike Conley. Took them a little while. Donovan Mitchell's that much better. Rudy Gobert, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, sets amazing screens. They're top 5 in offensive efficiency, also top 5 in defensive efficiency. Most three-pointers made in the NBA. They have a good, probably the 6th man of the year coming off the bench in Jordan Clarkson, and they have a really good coach. I think they get the 1 seed. Because that's when you're betting futures, you're saying, is this the highest it'll be? And I do think, because they have this run of opponents coming up. Started with Milwaukee on Friday, Philly tonight. They're going to have 2 with the Lakers. They're going to have the Clippers on there. Now we'll see some load management. Obviously, LA is going to be shorthanded given the Anthony Davis injury. And then they got to go to Miami as well. So there are opportunities. But I think if they pass that, the odds are going to come crashing down. So I did fire today on higher than 12 and 6-1. 12 to win it all. 6 right now at Caesars William Hill to win the conference. I think there will be value because if they get the 1 seed, and I think they will, then they have to avoid Lakers and Clippers together. Those teams have to play each other in the semis.
Remember, back when the Warriors won their first title the year before, they lost in a 7-game series in the opening round of the Clippers. No one wanted to buy into the Warriors even after that 14-game winning streak early in the season. It was late in the year before people finally thought these guys might be able to do it.
I want to bring in Jordan Schultz. Jordan, you've obviously talked NBA with us all year. What are your expectations for the Jazz and having seen what you've seen?
I love this team. Hey, talk about balance, identity, a great coach, my Seattle product himself, Quinn Snyder. You mentioned Donovan Mitchell. He's really playing like a superstar, not just an all-star. 24 points a game. He's playmaking, 5 assists, 42% from 3. Mike Conley might not be an all-star, but he is certainly playing like one as well. And then you mentioned Gobert. Defensively, he's an absolute machine. This guy blocks shots. He alters shots. He can switch on to pick and rolls. He's so unselfish defensively. I love Utah. I don't know if they're ultimately going to have enough firepower to beat LA if Davis is healthy, but when Anthony Davis now has to deal with an Achilles, there is a lot of value in Utah at plus 600, or as Joe said, plus 650. I like the Jazz a lot. They know who they are. They know what they are, and they also have a guy named Triple Bogey, who I love as well, Bogdanovich.
Look, I get it. Everyone's like, you could have had 60-1, 50-1 earlier this year. I'm with you on the FOMO. All bettors have it. But knowing what you know now, and the AD injury and this ridiculous start to the season they've had, I don't think you can get hung up on the odds you could have had. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Is there value today? And sounds like we're all on the page that there is value on that situation. So the Jazz obviously dominating NBA storylines, but the Nets, given their impressive win on ABC on Saturday night, certainly have a little buzz. They are still your Eastern Conference favorites, the plus 140. Bucks plus 260, and then a drop to Philly at 5-1, even though Sixers have the best record in the East. And then there's some teams that have just been struggling, like the Heat. Stephen A. Smith, a big believers in the Nets out East.
The Lakers, as far as I'm concerned, are the only team standing in the way of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden winning the chip. They're the number one offense in the NBA. They're absolutely, positively unstoppable. And it's going to take an elite team on both ends of the floor to knock them off. The Brooklyn Nets are going to win the NBA championship if Anthony Davis can't go.
Ooh, now Stephen A. said that this morning without the official diagnosis from Woj Bomb that just a little bit ago, but still, powerful words. And here is, according to BPI, the Bucks at 53%. BPI loves the Bucks, obviously for the logical reasons. Also, Drew Holiday is an improvement over Bledsoe from last year. But the narrative out there is the big three, come playoff time, will be able to flip the switch. Joe, do you agree that the Nets are the team to beat?
I do not. Now, maybe the defense improves between now and the end of the season, and I'll change that opinion, but I want to go back through history, okay? The last 20 years, we've had 40 teams that have won a conference title in the NBA. Of those 40 teams, 36, which is 90%, have ranked in the top 12 in defensive efficiency. 22 of those 40 have ranked in the top 5. Translation, you have to play some defense to get to the final stage of the NBA
But there has been outliers. And those 4, would that match up with a team with 3 Hall of Famers leading the offense?
There have been outliers, but do we want to bet on the outlier, or do we want to take our money and say to ourselves, maybe a little bit of caution until we see the defense improve? I'm not saying they can't get better defensively, because maybe they do, but they're 25th in defensive rating. And again, we're coming off this Warriors game, and this is what's getting us excited.